I'm sending a PowerPoint of this presentation to my Bureau benefit officers, and hopefully they'll be able to share that with you, so if you're interested. I'm also recording it, but sometimes our recording feature is a little finicky. So hopefully, if it does record, I'll post it on YouTube and send it to the awards coordinators, and you'll be able to find the link. You'll be able to get the link from them. Okay. Let me begin. Now, the purpose of this webinar, as I said before, is to talk about the FEHB extension to certain temporary, seasonal, and intermittent employees. Now, the proposed rule was published last year on July 29th, and the final rule was published on October 17, 2014. And some of you may be aware, last year we were asked to notify everyone that was in active duty status who met the and let them know that they are eligible for FEHB. We have the results. It's between number of employees who have elected it so far are between 5 and 8% total. And that may seem really low, but a lot of these individuals are very healthy. They may have their health insurance from another place. Some of them still may be on their parents' health insurance. So, yeah, even though that number seems pretty low, we are continuing to monitor the data and have been supplying the data to OPM on almost a monthly schedule. They have the schedule set up, and it's not quite monthly, but it's close. So let's do an overview. Here's a review of the policy, and it's employees on temporary appointments. Okay. Employees on temporary appointments, employees on seasonal schedules who will be working a schedule of less than 6 months per year, and intermittent employees who, and this is where we get to the point, are expected to work 130 hours per calendar month or more. So this is the case for at least 90 days. So the expectation is there that these individuals will be working 130 hours per calendar month and will be working for at least 90 days. These newly eligible employees will receive the same government contribution as full-time permanent employees. And these temporary employees, and there's also a second group of individuals who now get the government portion, and that are those temporary employees working for 12 consecutive months who are already eligible to enroll in the FEHB program. They will now be able to receive a full employer contribution towards the FEHB premium. We already did a total for those employees, and it was very small. It was minuscule compared to how many employees we have, and I believe they've already been notified. So going back to the first bullet, where it says expected to work 130 hours per calendar month. A calendar month doesn't mean, and this is, I got this question several times. A calendar month doesn't mean from January 1st to January 31st. It means a consecutive period of 30 days. And that's what OPM, so that's including the weekends, including, it's 30 days. Moving forward, Right here are some decision tables. Because although the main responsibility to notify the employees is on the HR offices, you too, though, they will probably be reaching out to you, and, you know, it's great that you know this knowledge and this policy also. And these tables were created by USGS, and anyway, here they are, and they're very easy. It's if on an initial appointment and expected to work 90 days, they're eligible.
But could you change the slide? We don't see the table.
Yeah, there you go. Got it?
Thank you.
Okay, so if an employee is on an initial appointment and expected to work 90 days, then they're eligible. If an employee is on an initial appointment and not expected to work 90 days, they're not eligible. And if that expected number of days changes to more than 90 days, they're eligible. They're not eligible retroactive, they're eligible prospectively, unless there's been an error in the Bureau and they neglected to notify the employee. The employee was actually supposed to be on a 90-day appointment. So go to the second one, and this is for pathway students. So because we do have quite a few pathway students that follow into this. And here you go. So it's the same table, same idea, same policy. The third one is for the seasonal employees, 130 hours per month, and the intermittent. And the intermittent is where we're going to get into and talk a little bit more about. So this is the same policy, so you can kind of see it there. These have been very helpful for the HR specialists to use, you know, and like I said, we have these in a couple of different places, and I'll be giving these to the benefit officers so you can have them, so you too can use these. Okay, now we're going to talk about the part of this that has been a bit of a challenge. Is there are intermittent employees that are expected to work, and the expectation of work is 90 days or more and 130 hours a month. And the supervisors and field offices may need to work with the servicing HR, the human resource offices, to determine if these employees are expected to work 90 days or more and 130 hours on average in a month. And remember that it's an expectation. One of the pitfalls with this policy that we've found is that sometimes people are wanting to say, just look at the hours, but you as a supervisor need to be consulted, because you're the one who often knows, you know, what's on the work schedule, what's entered in our systems may not be correct. So they need to, the HR offices will need to work with you to make sure that the expectations are conveyed and that the eligibility has been determined. So, and one thing, almost always prospective determination, nobody asked me to change. Prospective determination is an estimate of the hours that the employee will work, rather than the actual count of hours worked, and that's what we just talked about. So if the employee agency determines that the individual is eligible, but that employee actually works fewer hours, coverage cannot be rescinded. So if you determine that an employee is going to be working, you know, is going to be working 92 days and 140 hours a week, a month, they'll get coverage, but after the second week, the funding has been rescinded, or there's not enough work, or then that employee, even if they're not working as much, to meet the coverage, they still, because the offer was made, they'll still get it. So, any questions on this? Okay. Moving forward. All right. In addition, there's additional benefits offered to these employees, and it's a good idea that you're familiar about them, so you can let your employees know. Or when they get, your employees will get an email, but you'll be able to follow up and say, oh, by the way, you're also eligible for this, this, and this. The flexible spending accounts, the MyRA, that's actually MyRA and not MyRSA. Not sure how I did that now. That's a retirement account that's brand new. Some of you may have seen the emails for it. It's intended for employees that don't have TSPA, that are not on the SERS or FSRS system, the FERS, but is eligible for everyone. And we are working with Treasury to do a rollout of, a marketing rollout of MyRA, and you should be seeing that in the next couple months. So these employees are not eligible for FEHB or FEDVIP, which is the vision program and the life insurance. All right, any questions here? Okay. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about the part-time employees. So this policy is for, the expansion is for full-time, temporary, seasonal, and intermittent employees. Currently, the Part-Time Career Act allows agencies to prorate the government contribution for certain employees working between 16 and 32 hours per week. However, the Part-Time Career Act specifically excludes temporary and intermittent employees. As such, employing agencies are not authorized to pay a prorated premium for any temporary or intermittent employees. However, OPM is reviewing the Part-Time Career Act, and there may be modifications to it in the next year. So, any questions there? Okay, so key notes and the key things to talk about and to remember are employees have 60 days to elect coverage. So the employees need to be notified of their option to enroll when entering an active pay status, and that these employees, this is considered a qualifying life event, which is a term defined by OPM to describe events deemed acceptable by the IRS that may allow premium conversion participants to change their participation election for premium conversion outside of an open season. So the rules for the QLE is what we call the qualifying life event, and those rules apply. And while these employees are in an active pay status, if they have one of these qualifying life events happen, they're able to change or modify their coverage. So I've also attached the chart that OPM has prepared for qualifying life events. That's really helpful. Moving forward. All right, I'm going to go through a few questions. I've got 3 here, and The first one is what happens if a full-time employee is expected to work for fewer than 90 days, but the employee actually works for 90 days or more. You can read it. What's the answer? Any answers? Full-time employee who is expected to work for fewer than 90 days is considered to be in a 90-day waiting period and no offer should be made. If the expectation changes, then the employee should be notified by the employing office and given an opportunity to enroll. Enroll promptly, but no later than the 91st day of employment. FEHB coverage would be prospective, as it is in most circumstances, rather than retroactive to the first day of employment. And like I said before, the only times that it would be retroactive is if there were an agency error. Second question is, we talked about this before, but it's if an employee is not to exceed 1 year but terminates prior, what will happen to the insurance? And the coverage will continue unless the employee separates from federal service, receives a new appointment, or 3, exceeds 365 days in a non-pay status in accordance with 5 CFR 890, and that's the same rule as applies to federal permanent employees. Okay. If an employee has declined to enroll in FEHB during the initial enrollment period, will existing QLE rules or FEHB rules still apply to this employee? And the answer is existing QLE rules apply. If the employee is still in an active pay status during the next open season and meets eligibility requirements, he or she can enroll at that time. Okay. In review, all right, one thing to remember is the word expectation. So it's your expectation of your employees. Another is these employees are not offered this insurance unless they enter that active pay status. So that is key. When you know you're bringing somebody back on that's entering, be proactive. Let your, talk to your HR offices when necessary. If you have intermittent employees, please work with your HR offices to make sure that those employees are notified. And these newly eligible employees who are notified follow the qualifying life events rules. And currently, newly eligible employees cannot use Employee Express to enroll. I've asked OPM about that again and haven't received an answer yet, but I think it's still the case. And HR offices must manually enroll employees, and they're very much aware of this, have done this already with the first batch, and are quite proficient in doing this. So unless there's been an agency error, the enrollments are prospective. And generally, all the same rules about break in service, continuity of coverage, leave without pay rules, and non-pay status would apply for these newly eligible employees as for all other employees who are covered under FEHB. So these employees are eligible for TCC, and which is COBRA. It's a temporary continuing coverage of health insurance, and the rules are the same. So, all right, I've got here a list of resources for you to use. There is a frequently asked questions that we prepared. We had a meeting last fall with OPM, and and the DOI benefit officers, and out of that we took many of the questions and answers and created this document, which is pretty helpful. A lot of the information in it, we've reviewed. There's other, questions that it may provide, to questions that are quite, nuanced. So I also attached Plan Smart Choice, which is a free tool for employees to use to elect their health insurance coverage. Okay. Any questions? Anyone? All right. Well, that's the end. And thank you, everyone, for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.